Perfect.
Go ahead. You're all set.
All right, I'm just gonna pull up one last page and then we'll get started. All right, let's share screen. And I just want to test that I can share sound real quick. Can somebody let me know if they can hear this?
It is going to be chilly, so make sure you dress warm, maybe even.
Yes, we can.
Perfect. Okay. We're going to need this for later. Where's Carla's nice storm update? There we go. And now let's start the presentation. Perfect. So I just want to know what everybody's looking at. Can you guys still see me in a small little box along with the presentation as the rest of the full screen?
Yes.
Yes. Perfect. Awesome. Hey guys, my name's Andrew. I work at 475 Consulting Group, a firm started in 2019 with my then partner Jen Leeper to help campaigns overcome their content needs. What that basically means is we do a lot of consulting for communications. We create a lot of the materials that campaigns put out, both for organic and paid media. But we don't focus on field as much. And I know there are other sessions in this process where you can learn about this. This is really to get you, to try to give you guys an idea about what you need to produce to address people and your constituents during a campaign. Can I just ask everybody here, what level of participation they're planning of doing and why they're attending? Do you guys want to help in other campaigns? Are you guys looking to run yourself for a municipal position?
Help others.
Well, do you want, I can start if you like.
Please, Maggie.
Andrew already said, and I've said it earlier, so I'll be very quick, is I'm on the Easton DTC. I'm volunteering to manage Dave Bindleglass's campaign to run for re-election as first selectman, and I'm also chair of the DTC elections team. And Andrew and 475 have worked with both the Easton DTC and Dave Bindleglass's campaign 2 years ago and 1 year ago. So anything we can learn from Andrew is hugely helpful, and I highly recommend listening to him and hiring him. I guess I shouldn't say that, but this is educational.
Maggie, don't say that because I'm actually already booked up for this year. Anybody else have anything particular that they're planning to do with this, a position they want to run for, or at least the, the level kind of their involvement?
Hi, this is Rob. I do a lot of volunteering on campaigns, and one of the things I always wonder is like, when you lose, people always point fingers, be like, it just wasn't our year. The district's just so red. And I kind of want to know like how are you supposed to run these things? How are we supposed to do it? So I'm hoping just to get a little bit of an understanding so that I could be more helpful to people.
Awesome. Thank you, because this is really helpful to me, and it will obviously tailor what I am able to give information to give back to you guys with this. Anybody else? Okay.
Yeah, this is one last one. This is Robert from the Fairfield DTC, looking to help campaigns, not run.
Awesome. All right, guys, this is, did I switch yet? I put this in first. So this is a little bit of a mea culpa, but also a great opportunity. So I was planning to update some of the charts I have in this presentation later with 2020 data. I have not done that because 2 weeks ago, the representative for the 112th Republican resigned, and my good friend and colleague Nick Kapoor from Monroe is now running for that seat. So in the last 2 weeks, and actually the governor only announced the election day last Friday, we have put together an entire campaign. And we have 37 days left as of today, because specials are always fun. What that means, though, is that there is currently a campaign going on which is looking for volunteers. And if you guys want to reach out and get involved and kind of see behind the scenes of how things run, I am super happy if you guys go over to his website, fill out the volunteer form, say, I had Andrew at the session at Newtown Training School. I really like to learn more about campaigns and help out. I'd be happy to get you guys in the meetings, the team meetings, so you can at least just see what goes on and how we approach these kind of things. And then the first thing I want to do is just tell you guys just about some nomenclature so that we can, have a better discussion. When I talk about reach, it's the total number of individuals who have encountered a piece of content. So some people might view a piece of content twice. That does not matter to your reach number. It's just the total number of distinct individuals. Unlike impressions or views, which refers to the total number of times somebody's seen something. So for instance, a lawn sign on the side of a road might, reach 2,000 people, but it probably has like 40,000 impressions, 50,000 impressions, because people just see it so many times driving back and forth. And finally, engagement is mainly a digital metric. It measures how many times people interact with a piece of content. So that's a like, a share, a comment. It even counts for if somebody goes in and turns on the audio or presses pause or play again in a Facebook, or if they there's an album of pictures and they actually decide to click through and look at all the individual pictures. Say if there's 6, on Facebook you'll see more. Instagram you can swipe through. All that counts as engagement. So content operations. It's kind of the new term that campaigns have started using in the last decade to address the exponential increase in the amount of media a campaign has to produce to adequately service all the different communication channels that are now available. 15 years ago, you needed a lawn sign, a walk card, a couple mail pieces, and that was, not much more. Now we are looking at the minimum pieces of media I'll create for a campaign is in the 50s. And there are, when you include social media posts that the campaign, we advise the campaign to produce themselves, we're deep into the hundreds. So it is a monumental task. This session is not about how to brand your campaign or about what specific communication points to make. This is about the tools and the environment surrounding these new communication channels so that you can more intelligently talk about it, and also hire people that you need to provide some of these services, and just be more informed about what you are expected to accomplish throughout the duration. One of the things that I think is amazing, and again, this is my mea culpa. This is a 2018 chart. I didn't pull in the 2020, but it still proves the point, is that everybody consumes an amazing amount of content. So what this is Nielsen data from Q3 2018. This is segmented by age demographics. So you have all adults on the far left. Sorry, can you guys see my pointer or not?
I could see the pointer. I don't know.
Okay,
if
awesome.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this is the average adult in America consumes over 10 hours of media a day. And that is TV, radio, TV connected devices, internet via computers or smartphones or tablets. And so basically we are machines, and this has only gotten worse over the years. And I suspect now during COVID, we are all pushing over 11 hours at least. But it also means that we are consuming a huge amount of information. And even people who are 65 plus, if you see here in 2000, this is 3 years ago now, or really 2 years ago, we're consuming up to 2 hours of internet time a day, an hour and a half on a smartphone, another 20 minutes on a computer. And that's you're 65. So basically everybody is consuming media. And this is going to talk to this whole presentation to talk about how we can reach these individuals. Because basically it's now a numbers game. You can't just send out 5 mailers each getting, so say if we're using here a House district campaign for our approximate numbers, just because I didn't know what size campaign people should be working on. I think it's a nice, I would say it's like somebody running for a first selectman seat in a town of 15 to 20,000 people, or obviously a House seat, which represents about 23,000 people. It's a nice middle ground. But you can't just send out 6 mailers anymore, each, reaching one individual when they get it in the mail, 5,000. So that would be 30,000 impressions. Now with these new channels of communication, you have the ability to reach people, not just hundreds of thousands of times, but millions of times. The one number I didn't put up here is on the average campaign, we texted people about over 10,000 times. You can see here, 5,000 postcards, 2,000 base letters, over 10,000 mail pieces, search ads over 10,000, display ads over 1 million, video ads, getting into the 200,000 range. We definitely did more than that with some of these campaigns this last year. And then when it comes to social media, these are 3 of the campaigns I worked on this last year, which I would consider active. They each got 130,000, 140,000, 150,000 organic impressions on social media. Organic is the difference between paid. It means we did not pay for their promotion. That means that their own content organically reached that many individuals. By paying then for social media, to boost social media posts, we were able to increase that dramatically. But with just a budget of about $35,000, we're talking about hundreds of thousands, if not millions of contacts. So the game has really changed. I gave you guys all a copy of this generic budget. We're not going to go through it line item by line item. I know it's small on the screen. Don't feel bad about not being able to read it. It's simply a tool for you guys to look back on to get an approximation of 2 things. Of one, how much things kind of cost and how much you can expect to spend on things. And 2, your allocation of a budget and where it should go. You can kind of infer that from an overall budget like this. So we do everything from your photo shoot and video production all the way to a recommended texting campaign at the very end. Another thing that I think is important is that for any campaign, say if you guys are going to be a campaign manager or run for an office yourself, is you're going to need to hire a consultant. They are going to help you with things like your mail plan and digital ads. And depending on your internal capabilities, they can or may not be able to help you with other aspects of that. There are plenty of people like 475, Alpha Graphics, Francesca Capodilupo, Blue Edge Strategies, Christian Murray. Ask your DTC chairs or central committee members for recommendations. And you should be looking to connect with somebody like us. For instance, on this chart, you can see in blue are internal campaign expenses, and what's in orange, the orangish color, is what I would bid on. These are all the things that as a consultant, I would be like, oh, I can provide this service. First step that I strongly recommend for any campaign, which really smooths out the rest of this whole process where we talk about creating content and addressing these new channels of communication, is do a photo shoot. There are 2 people listed here that I love. Simply Paws Photography is based here in Newtown. Nicole, she's awesome. And then Sarah Lieberger is based in Easton, actually. So she's on the Easton DTC. Maggie knows her well. So both 2 very talented photographers who are familiar with the kind of requirements. Do a half-day photo shoot. Do 4 locations. And a guide to photo shoot locations, wardrobe, and extras is actually in the drive that you guys all have access to, which I should say also has these slides as well. So if you guys are not able to take notes quick enough, or if you're worried about that, these slides and a full recording of this entire presentation will be in there afterwards. But use the photo shoot guide. There's a template multimedia rights release in there. So for instance, if you're taking pictures with extras, you'll have them sign off so that you can then use the media in the campaign. But basically, I cannot stress strongly enough, do a half-day photo shoot. Get those pictures, because that content will then inform your content creation for the duration of the campaign. Then after that, the first thing you guys need to think about is digital infrastructure. It starts off with a branding suite. That's your logo, font pack, color palette, and design theme. Now, if you guys are on a house campaign or something of the that approximate size, I recommend that you hire that consultant and you have them provide this stuff with you. If you're on a smaller campaign, if you're running for a board of finance seat, that might not be something that's within your reach. So we're going to discuss this later. Actually, I think if we just go through this list quickly, it's branding suite, web 4, and then social 4, and we're going to touch on all of these. So first thing is logos. Jen Leeper, who did run for a house seat and won successfully, has a really good friend who's a graphic designer. She reached out. If you don't have somebody like that, then there's always Fiverr, which is a great gig website. That's actually where we first reached out because we have such a rushed schedule for Nick Kapoor's logo. They gave us back 3 options, I think, for $120, and then flushed out some revisions, and we got a great result out of it. Then when it comes to setting up your web domain and email, use Google. Don't go anywhere else. Google domains, purchase it, and then set up your email and Drive with a Google Workspace account. Basically, Google Workspace is what they've rebranded your Google email as because it involves also includes a calendar, your Drive system, everything. Sign up for one email address for the campaign, info@campaigndomain.com. After that, just have all emails forwarded from that and have everybody use their personal. I don't recommend setting up a campaign email for the treasurer and the campaign manager and everybody else. You're not looking at those type of setups until you get into the congressional type races. For websites, I work with, I strongly recommend that you guys either use Wix or Squarespace. But again, if this is for people who aren't going to have their consultant do this, if you are running for a selectman seat or a board of ed or board of finance, this is something that you can do yourself and quite easily. If you are technically able, I would say go for Wix. It's my preference. I think it builds stronger, better websites with more flexibility and resources. If you can use a Word document, though, you can use Squarespace. And I think I wanted to show you guys actually 2 examples of websites. And so if we switch back to this real quick, let me just hide my meeting controls. Our company website. We don't do that much communication. This is simply a landing page for people to visit. This is built on Squarespace. It's super easy to do, and I strongly recommend it. If you are more technically able, I would go to Wix. It's much more powerful and has some really cool features you can add in. I think this website has actually only been up for 1 week. It actually launched last Saturday morning. We have had over 1,000 people visit it from the 112th, or at least the 112th, anybody else who's interested, and over 35 volunteers sign up on our page. These channels are immensely important to building up that campaign team for the rest of the work you're going to do. That said, websites are not content hubs. They should be thought of as ClickFunnels. You have channels to post updates, whether it's Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, in which to update people about how your campaign is going and what's going on every day. That's not what your website's for. Your website is to get people the information they're looking for quickly so that you can then capture them in the form of absentee ballots and get them the information they need, or have them sign up to volunteer. If you are updating your website more than once every 2 weeks, you're not doing it right, because there's no inherent way to make people want to read your website every week. Whereas these social media channels like Facebook and Instagram are literally built like that. So people check in anyway for other things. That's where you should be giving your constituents updates. So if we switch back, PowerPoint slide. Then you're going to want to send out a weekly newsletter from your campaign to the email list that you're able to generate. You can pull that initial list off of Van and other publicly identifiable locations. For instance, in Fairfield, the wait list for a train station spot, voter registration, the train station parking, or I already said that, the boat marina applicants. These are all publicly available information. You can source it together and then use a provider like Wix or like MailChimp if you're using Squarespace to send out weekly emails. We sent out our first from Nick's campaign, I believe actually this morning. So I'm just gonna go to it real quick and show you guys what, wrong one. Even though we're using Wix for his, which now has the ability to email, that's rather new. So we're still using MailChimp right now. Log in. Oh, doesn't want me to. All right, guys. Well, I take that back. We're just going to see his email the other way. I'm going to show you guys a test of it real quick. So we sent out our first piece this morning to about, I think, 4,700 people with the email list we were able to put together. Super effective form of communication, and again, something you want to build into your campaign. Online fundraising. I have used other services. I do not recommend them. I strongly recommend you use Antidote. They call it Antidote, but I think it's missing an E then. They are super helpful. They're based down in like Texas and I want to say Louisiana, but they know all the Connecticut rules and regulations that are special to our process and SEEK with our citizen selection program. So they actually have individual buttons specified just for Connecticut you can turn on to make the process easier. They do a great job. One of the tips I want to say though, if you're setting this up, is they give you the option to, at the end of the donation point, to then not send them, just back to the thank you page, but actually link them back to your website, to the volunteer sign up page, and 100% do that. One of the awesome things about all these new channels of communication, besides the fact I have so much more work to do, is that you can leverage these forms of communication so that when you do get an online donation, which now that's the form most donations come through by far, you can then get them to sign up because that's the same group of people. And so it's two birds, one stone. Print materials. Again, these are all line items in the budget I gave you guys above. And these are things you're going to want your consultant or your marketing service provider to help with. For instance, if you guys are have a designer friend or somebody that's good at graphic design, and you have a logo put together, and you go to Alpha Graphics, I know Dave Stowe is giving a lot of these presentations. They know what you guys are going to need, and they will help you guys print these out for a really fair price and get you the amounts. If you guys have any questions about like how many you need and stuff like that, it really depends upon your universe and your field work, which, as I said before, is not not something that I do. But if you look in the budget, you'll see that for a house campaign, which is targeting about 23,000 people, there are the numbers of all these things in there. So it'll vary, but these are all things that are super helpful. Stickers for when people are knocking doors. Obviously, door hangers. Sticky notes are kind of new since COVID. If people don't want to leave something hanging on the door, they can leave a sticky note to the top of the door, kind of in the same fashion. Handwritten postcards that volunteers write and send out, I think, are one of the best forms of mailed paid media. I've also really been pushing base letters for campaigns. That basically means sending out a nice form letter, kind of like this, to all your base Democratic voters. And this can accomplish one of two things: either introduce a new candidate who's running for the first time to that base, or, for instance, in Steinberg's campaign, we targeted new registrations over the last 2 and 4 years. People who were new to town, who are most likely Democrats or are Democrats, but haven't been introduced to Jonathan yet as they're new. A mail plan. You're gonna want a consultant for a mail plan unless you're a small campaign and only plan on sending out kind of one piece. And again, depending on the size of the campaign, I recommend reaching out to people like Alpha, people like 475, people like Blue Edge or Christian Murray. Yard signs, I think, are super effective forms of out-of-home media. Some people say, oh, yard signs don't win elections, but it really shows the community coming around a candidate. And again, this is a numbers game now. This is about repetition and brand recognition so that when they get to the polls, they feel more comfortable ticking the box next to your candidate or yourself. And something that's come up and now used by every campaign I work with in the last year is large QR codes posted on the back of clipboards for anybody knocking doors. Obviously, when we're knocking doors, we're being conscious of being socially distant. So a large QR code on the back of a clipboard gives people the opportunity 10 feet, 6 feet away at their front door to just simply turn on their camera, scan, and get directed to the campaign website without having to physically transact or take any piece of material. Can everybody see my face right now?
Yes.
So now I believe that COVID era has increased the rate of disruption. Obviously, we realize that there have been less real world events and everybody's now meeting and holding events through Zoom, just like we are right now. And I think it's important to remember that any candidate doing that will be doing the exact same thing. They'll be meeting new people. They'll be giving impressions to new people over digital video. And I think that you need to prepare for that. So for instance, if you guys all focus on me instead of the slide, this is what happens when I turn off my lighting. And then I also have another little side light, which I have on too. And now all of a sudden, when you're engaging and talking with people, it's not the same impression that you were making before. We have limited opportunities to engage people and we want to make the best of it. So I'm going to turn this side light back on, and then I'm going to turn my ring light back on, which is set to neutral to mid-tone. They're not expensive. As you can see here, that's the buy page from a UB's one, the exact one I'm using right now for $36. You can use it with a laptop setup or a webcam like I am, or you can use it with your phone directly in the middle of it. Another thing that they provide, which I think is super helpful for campaigns, and we're going to get into the content creating restrictions, is one of these. It's a Bluetooth connector for phones, excuse me, so that candidates can create video content themselves without the need for extra editing. And what that basically means is that you're going to need a candidate to do Instagram and Facebook updates that they film themselves without the help of either another team member or without the help of somebody like me doing video editing, which is expensive and a tiresome process. So if we go real quickly back over to the internet and we go to Carla's page, this is a great example of what I'm talking about. She filmed this herself.
Day 6 here without power. Like most of you, I am very angry and frustrated about what's happening right now. We increased our electricity rates to ensure that something like this would never happen to our infrastructure. That clearly did not happen. I think about my friend that brought home her newborn baby to the dark. I think about my students and the senior citizens in our community that rely on our power grid to keep themselves safe and healthy. We need to make sure that we hold these companies accountable. And when I'm up in Hartford, I will work so hard to make sure that this never happens to us ever again. Hey, everyone.
And so the reason that Carla was able to capture this piece of content, which was viewed 2,000 times in the next 48 hours, was because she had a tripod and one of these. There's no of that finicky holding out, a profile or holding out your own selfie style, or there's no like pushing the button, if you can see my screen, like, oh, start recording, stop recording. We're going to go into it later how much content a campaign should produce like this. And again, this is a cheap, effective piece of production equipment that everybody should have, whether you're running for a justice of the peace or a first selectman. When it comes to video production overall, this is kind of our standard again for the size of campaign I was talking about earlier, that 23,000 kind of constituents, about $35,000 budget. We tend to do 8 videos and split production as 2 half days. One 60-second intro piece, 2 30-second issue pieces. From the intro piece, we kind of get 2 very much abridged versions of it. One 15-second GOTV piece, which is your most important issue, and one 6-second bumper, in which literally it's those YouTube ads that you see that you don't even have time to skip because they're so quick, where the candidate just has time to say their name, what they're running for, and we're, hope to see you out on November, whatever the date is for this next year. This content will then inform not only what you put out on social media, but the digital ads you're able to run. And by conforming to these time constraints, you're able to service the most inventory, which means that basically different websites have different requirements for different lengths. You can do, say, for instance, you guys are familiar with skippable ads probably on YouTube. That's your 60 seconds and your 30 second. Your 15-second is you can pay a little bit more and actually force people to sit through that entire thing before they start their programming. And then finally, we also have the 3 30-second walk and talks or endorsements. So we usually come up for an event that you guys are having, whether it's an outdoor event in COVID, or whether it's a more traditional event, and we film something else later in the campaign with the candidate where they get to address an issue in a more informal, just kind of talk to the camera way, or we get some key endorsements from people around town. And then we have our social 4, kind of. So if you guys look at the end of this, like I said, the presentation pieces are all in the folder. If you guys go to the very end, you'll see we've made videos on how to set up all these channels individually for campaigns. So if you don't know how to set up a Facebook page for a political campaign or Instagram page, go to the end, go to additional resources. We've literally made a video that walks you through the entire process. To go over it more briefly though, Facebook, Instagram are the key to organic engagement, to reach people who live in your district and surrounding area, friends and neighbors, is what you need to be posting to most often. YouTube, although people won't find your media organically, is essential because that's where you host your videos. If you're going to put it on a website, if you're going to run it in an ad, YouTube is where you need to upload everything so that other channels can then link to it. Twitter is something that we don't actually recommend that campaigns set up their own Twitter accounts anymore. If you're going to use Twitter, we recommend it be the personal account of the candidate. But that doesn't mean you can ignore it completely. If you guys, as we're about to go into, have a schedule for social media content that you're following, it does not hurt to post this content that you've already created onto Twitter as well. It's simply the opportunity cost is so low that you should be duplicating content on every channel available to you. And finally, TikTok. I don't know if anybody on here is familiar with TikTok yet. It's a video sharing form of social media that is really popular with the younger generation. I'd say the Zoomers right now, but it is growing in popularity quickly and it is coming. So I don't know whether we have 2 years until it's in every campaign or 4 years. If past history is an indicator, it's probably less. Like I would say 4 years ago, nobody was posting on Instagram, and 2 years ago, if you didn't, you were making a large mistake. So the big thing about social media posting is make a calendar. You should be looking to post at least 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. You can schedule these things in advance, early in the morning, 6 a.m. You do that so that you get the initial. Facebook uses a trailing average and past history to decide how many more posts to show your video to. So for instance, if you post your video at 3 a.m. and it shows no engagement for the next 3 hours as nobody's awake, then it won't do as well for the next 21 hours of the cycle. If you post at 6 a.m., you kind of get that first wave of people who the first thing they do is pick up their phone and look at their social media, and that will kind of carry you through the rest of the day. There is a new tool out now. I say new, but it's been out there for about a year and a half in different versions of called Creator Studio. Everybody should be using this. It enables you to post to Facebook and Instagram at the same time, schedule things in advance. It basically services the niche that I think programs like Hootsuite used to take up. But obviously, this being an in-platform service, it is better integrated and everybody should be taking advantage of it. And it makes your job much easier. So if you have a calendar, oh, I'm going to post this Monday, this Wednesday, this Friday. You do your work on Sunday night. You can actually go into Creator Studio, schedule it for both Facebook and Instagram for 6 in the morning on those days. And then the rest of your week is doing, maybe a little video update if something is happening important, or posting a link to a piece of news that's either applies to the district that you're running in or is of national importance. Another thing that everybody needs to be aware of is Canva. Canva is maybe by far the best tool to make social media content. It is a free digital design program. It's browser-based, so everybody can do it on the computer. It has free templates, and they even have a whole design school where they have short videos that will teach you how to use the program. It is the easiest editor by far that I have ever encountered. I stopped last year trying to create pieces in InDesign and Photoshop because, to be honest, it's just not time. It's not efficient use of your time anymore. Canva is a phenomenal resource. I strongly recommend that anybody who thinks about posting social media for a campaign checks it out and becomes familiar with its offerings. And I think they're now just trying to introduce video editing too, which is amazing that now we've reached the point in computers where we can do video editing through a web browser. I'm going to stop here for social media because, to be honest, I could go into this forever, and I actually am going to do that on March 20th at 11 a.m. I have social media, a deep dive, a different class that I'm going to present where we specifically go into more of the tools and tricks in order to make best use of these content channels, but also dive into the data to get find out the little things that you can do, like metadata and post types, and to maximize your efficiency. It's just such a powerful tool to reach people that are geographically related to your campaign for free. As you saw before, the Average House campaign was doing like 40,000 organic views. If you tried to replicate 40,000 organic impressions with mailers, you'd be spending tens of thousands of dollars. This is something everybody can do for free if you just learn the ins and outs of it. I also want to talk about text messaging real quick. It has definitely arrived in the last 2 years. It is now should be a part of any campaign, but you have to do it sparingly. The first thing is I'll make a recommendation: use ThroughText. If you go directly to ThroughText and sign up for an account, they'll charge you $100 for a setup fee, and for political text messaging, they will charge you 8 cents a text. Your consultants, like me, will often offer services for texting, and we get, I'm not going to lie to you, we get a reseller rate. So don't pay more than 8 cents a text. I know campaigns before who have paid much more through their consultant, and that's, to be honest, just not fair. That said, if you need help pulling lists and they're doing targeting and creating, if they're doing the targeting for you, or if they're creating the content, or if they are actually doing the responses, that's one of the services we offer. Well, we will actually take over the complete text messaging campaigns. You don't need volunteers to do it. We'll send every message by hand manually. We will respond to every message by hand. Then we will charge more. But if you're just paying for text messages, which your own volunteers are doing, and you're creating the copy for that, 8 cents a text is what you guys should be paying. Don't spam your district. Use it sparingly. For instance, I'd say the average time we text the whole district is maybe 3 to 4 times for the 2020 election cycle. And that was maybe a little bit more than on an average year because of absentee ballots. So we let people know possibly when the campaign first started, when absentee ballot applications are coming out and what they can do, what the deadline is to get them back or how they can get them back. Then again, another reminder to send back their actual absentee ballots, not just the application. And then finally a GOTV text. So it's probably about 3 or 4 times. With Nick's campaign, this one that I'm working on right now, the special, it's super interesting. We did an announcement text last weekend. Don't forget that you can also target with text messaging. So for instance, we are sending out a text this week targeted to only 18 to 25-year-olds, asking if they're at college and they want their absentee ballot application sent to a different address, and they need a stamp. And again, texting obviously works better with younger generations. I expect a high amount of a high rate of response from that for something that's super important. But also you might want to consider taking out older people. I would say maybe over 77. People who don't use their phones regularly or have, maybe not a smartphone, but a traditional phone they only use for emergencies. Getting an official sounding text message can be not a comfortable process. So if you guys are ever texting and say it's something official, an update, you might want to think about taking out the older part of your demographic. Again, like I said earlier, I think that campaigns or COVID is disrupting how campaigns normally occur. And I don't think that some of these disruptions we're going to only see for the duration of COVID. I think we're going to see this propagate into the future. So A/B chases is now something that texting is perfect for and so powerful for campaigns. If you just saw the special election in Stanford, the Democratic candidate there tied at the won by well over 60% of the vote, but tied at the polls and won by ABs. Now, I believe we have pending legislation in Connecticut to make the I can't remember what the term is. No excuse absentee ballot voting permanent. That would be amazing. And texting is a great way to chase these individuals, because you can go to your registrar's office and see if somebody has filed the application. So therefore you can get that list, use Van, put it into your texting program, and then follow up, be like, hey, have you sent it back? Have you sent back your absentee ballot? Do you need help or do you need more information? Another thing we started experimenting with this last year is sending media. So we've always been sending our websites, but now we're sending video links, YouTube links right in our text message. Hey, do you learn about this important information, this important issue that's affecting your town? It creates a way to do fast response or just to really hammer home a message. So for like Carla's campaign, we did a final GOTV comparison piece video between her and her opponent that we messaged to, I think, 4,000 people on the weekend before the election day. We quickly got over 1,000 views on YouTube. Just a really effective way to leverage these new communication channels. Digital ads. So digital ads, you're definitely going to need a consultant or a service provider, somebody like me, somebody like Alpha Graphics, I know now offers these services joint with the mail plans we were talking about earlier. And I just want to give you guys some information and some tips so that you can talk about it more intelligently and kind of understand what you need to hit. Search ads are basically the ads you see at the top of search pages. So when everybody goes to Google or Bing, although nobody really uses Bing, and they type in something particular to their town, say if we're going to use Easton as an example, and Maggie, if they want to type in Easton election day, David Bindleglass will want to be bidding on that search. And so for like a $35,000 campaign, we have about $1,000 allocated to search ads, which will get you about 11,500 impressions, get you about 500 clicks through back to your website. It's people who have actually, searched for something locally because you've targeted geographically. So only people in Easton are getting this ad. We're not wasting money outside the borders of your district. And they can now find out more information. And we find this is essential for older individuals and to get their web traffic. We found with Nancy Lefkowitz's campaign for selectman in Fairfield that the average time spent on our website was actually the most from search traffic ads, not even more than people who had gone directly to our site on purpose. And we feel that's because older people are more likely to click on ads, and you're more likely to get those demographics, the information that you're looking to portray. Display ads. If anybody doesn't know what they are, the banner ads that you see at the top and bottom of everybody's pages, or on mobile, the little squares. I actually want to show you guys something real quick from Jen Leeper's campaign last year. Did I pull this up yet? No, I did not. Ads. sleeper. Okay, so we have September of last year, November 5th. This is on all her ads. So we did about 2.5 million impressions over just on the Google ad network. But we just want to look at search real quick. So I'm going to search campaigns, website traffic. Oh, sorry, no, I meant display. So last year was really interesting. What we saw because of COVID is normally mobile phones are the vast majority of display ad impressions. Because everybody was stuck at home during COVID, we had a lot more computer-based web browsing. So halfway through the campaign, we actually, let's go to the actual display ads. We saw that data coming in and we were like, okay, well, let's put up more large format banner ads for the top of web pages. Again, this is about just repetition, getting brand recognition so that people are familiar with your candidate and feel comfortable about taking the box into the day. And if you look at who this targeted, go back to the overview. You can see that this didn't just hit young people. This actually had its best penetration in the 55 to 64 category. So I'm going to go back to our presentation. So display ads, I believe, are you will see clicks on all the different websites from Real Clear Politics to MSNBC to Breitbart News. This is display ads are your chance to reach people where they're inherently browsing content anyway. Video ads are super important. Again, the Google Ad Network on social media, it skews younger, but it reaches everybody. I think one of the most impressive pieces of information we've seen in the last couple of years is that the highest penetration, people don't consider YouTube a social media platform, but it definitely is. And YouTube by far has the highest penetration across all age demos. I cannot tell you the number of people who are 65 and older who watch it because they realize they can watch their old TV shows or specific, woodworking channels or little niche hobbies. And so YouTube has, and video ads have such immense penetration these days. And it's one of the best ways to create a positive brand image in a quick, or get across a critical piece of information in just a quick format. Social media advertising. Is it back? Is it not? To be honest, I believe it is. Facebook said that they were taking, Facebook, which is Facebook and Instagram, said they were taking out political advertising after the last campaign. Well, then they said they just extend it through the Georgia Senate and runoff elections. And then this week, literally this past week, they were like, oh no, political advertising is coming back in full. So I do believe that's true. I can't say for sure it's going to continue. But one of the most effective things we've done is to take your content you're already producing, for instance, the videos that your consultant might produce or the videos that your campaign might produce themselves, the little updates, and use use the business manager features in Facebook and Instagram to boost those. Again, targeted geographically to your district, but just get more eyeballs. And we saw earlier from that slide that, even though they were able to achieve 30, 40, 50,000 organic impressions, we were able to make that hundreds of thousands by putting just an extra, I think, somewhere between $1,500 and $2,200 behind each one of those campaigns. So really effective from a cost perspective. I also think that you guys shouldn't forget your local papers. And I think that it's important. A lot of people will, a lot of your local papers, if you still have a print version, I know a lot of towns have lost that, will do bundles where they'll give you a print ad and a digital ad packet on their website at the same time. I think it's important that we support the local journalism that we have left. But also it's a great form of geographic targeting. I think that people are used to and trust these channels in order to get their news. I can tell you right now for like Nick Kapoor's campaign, we are locking up their local patch and the Monroe Sun, the leaderboard position for the 4 weeks going out before the election. This is another one of the slides where I don't now have 2020 data that I want to have, but 2018 is still very valid. And there's a lot of things that we can take from this that are super important. So the first chart that I've made, these are all have age on your x-axis. So this starts at 18-year-olds. In the middle, we got 60-year-olds, and then by the end, we reach 100 right here. And this first one is voter turnout percentage. So the percentage of registered, the percentage of 18-year-olds that actually turned out to vote in 2018 it looks like it's about 42%. Percentage of 26-year-olds was just over 30. Percentage of 60-year-olds looks like this is just below 80. Yeah, a little peak over 80 here at like 69. And then finally, when we reach about 80, we start to see the curve come back down again. And I think that this is really important because it tells you what to spend money on and where. For instance, it might be cheaper to hit more people digitally, but if you're only doing video ads, which skew younger, and don't get me wrong, video hits across, but if you're only doing a generic district of video ad, which only hits the inherent proportions of people who view video, which skews much younger, then it's not as efficient as if you were targeting people only 40 and above, or not as efficient as targeting people that are only 40 and 90, which you can do now in platform with Facebook or Google. So we literally do that. When we run a video campaign, we'll actually run 2 campaigns simultaneously. We'll run one for everybody in the geographic area, and then we'll run an additional one that's only, say, like 35 or 40 plus, so that we make sure that we're spending, and we'll kind of split the budget evenly between that, so that we are hitting everyone, but we are focusing the amount of money on the people who actually have a high propensity to turn out and vote. In a municipal election, I imagine that this chart will look the same, except for the percentage turnout will be lower across the board. And it really, so not only for digital though, but now when we think of mail, a lot of the mail campaigns now, we don't send, some we cut off at like 40, and some we cut off at like 35. Because to be honest, is it worth sending, oh, I can't do that. Click on the screen. Is it worth sending your most expensive piece of paid media, which is a mailer, which can cost anywhere from say like 65 cents to well over $1 if you're sending like a letter or something like that per person, to people who only have a 30% likelihood to come out to vote? In a municipal, it's going to be lower. I don't think that's the case. Also, you have to think about which type of media suits each demographic. Younger people see mail more as junk, and they really don't engage with it, whereas they consume a lot more digital media, and that's the medium of content that they prefer interacting with. So for 2 reasons now is why I would say cut your mail lists off at like 35. At the oldest, go like 33. You could save the campaign a bunch of money, deliver the mail content to the people who appreciate it, and increase your efficiency by only targeting people who are more likely to vote. This is the total number of voters in Fairfield in 2018, the one below it. We worked out quartiles and everything to figure out where our voters existed in terms of age demos. I think it's interesting that the interesting piece takeaway from this is that there are more Democrats and unaffiliateds that act like Democrats at younger ages, say below 46. And over that, we tend to see a little more Republicans and unaffiliateds that act more like Republicans. So again, if you're talking about your motivate or persuade demographics, and you're trying to think about targeting and where you can pick those extra votes in to win an election, charts like this, I think, provide that kind of information of where there is space to improve. One of the big things for us in 2020, which was successful, which we successfully utilized to win some campaigns, was well, we have lower voter turnout here. But we know they act more like Democrats. We can shift our budget slightly to skew for that because we think that 2020 was going to be a high turnout election, obviously with the Trump factor, and we were correct. And then finally, I really wish I had the 2020 absentee ballot data for you. I apologize that I don't, but it's actually not even available yet. Previous to the COVID, college students, you can see this spike of absentee ballots returns. We're using, and again, I talked about using different communication channels to specifically target those individuals. Now, everybody's using absentee ballots. But again, college students are still probably the most significant group that can be distinctly segmented. And again, they vote Democrat. The Democrats vote more than Republicans at a 5-to-1 ratio down there. So money spent targeting that age demo, even without it being custom list targeting or knowing exactly who you're targeting, but just geographically targeting that age group is usually money well spent. I wanted to make everybody aware of LinkedIn Learning. It is perhaps the best all-encompassing educational resource that I have found online. If there is any aspect of this process or a skill you want to learn, whether it's photo editing or website editing or social media channel curation or basically anything you can think of, there are hundreds of thousands of courses and videos available on this platform. It's actually a Microsoft. Microsoft bought LinkedIn, which bought what used to be called Lynda. And so Lynda used to be available at the Fairfield Library. I now get mine through Fairfield U. A lot of the libraries still have access to this service. So it can be free for a lot of people. You don't even have to pay for it. But even if you do, if you're looking to learn something, it's worth the money. I strongly recommend that you use it. And finally, we have additional resources. These are the videos that we've created. Again, this whole packet of slides and a couple of the other documents I talked about is in the shared folder. It's available to everybody here. If you're looking to set up a Facebook page, or if you want to know more about Instagram or Twitter or how to do videos, YouTube has a great academy for creators that shows you how to do like little selfie style videos that we talked about. Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, real quick, I have a quick question. So like that was a lot.
Yeah, it is. And
So,
which is
I mean,
which is why
good,
like
good. It was
Okay.
good a lot. If I'm still mentally digesting it all, would we be able to email you questions?
Yeah, my contact information is both on the Newtown page. It's at the top. I think the second page of this document. It's agospel@475consulting.com. My personal phone number is on there. If you guys just want to text me, like I have no problem just responding back. Just identify yourself, obviously. I'll save your contact details. I'm super happy to answer all and every question you guys might have. The reason why we're doing this, the reason why I'm involved, and the reason why I'm doing, like I was in digital media for like over a decade, working for corporate entities. I first got involved with my town DTC in 2015 when I ran for RTM. And then people started asking for help. In 2018, I got pulled into because of my background, I got pulled into a state Senate campaign. A year after that, I, formed a company to focus specifically on political advertising to try to help these causes and these individuals, get elected so that we can make a difference. And so I am more than happy to invest my time in you guys, and any questions you might have, please feel free to reach out.
Okay, so I just imagine I'm going to have more questions once I'm probably going to watch the video like a second time because I definitely missed some things. But my first question is, I noticed throughout the presentation you say, oh, there's this service, there's this service, there's this other service. You talked a lot about budgeting and money. Obviously, like state Senate campaigns, the CEP grant is like 100K plus, and the state rep's only 30K, whereas your first selectman campaign, I think we're going to be lucky if we're going to get, they were talking about 10 or 15K. when I was at the EVA presentation earlier. Do you have separate campaign plans, like the so to speak, like gold package, the silver package, the shoestring package, you know, as far as what you would do for depending on what budgets we're dealing with?
Yeah. So for instance, I think that there is a campaign I'm working on this year, which is definitely much more similar to yours. Do I have it pre-made out like we do for house campaigns? Because house campaigns are, you know, product in a box. Everybody knows how much money you have to spend. Everybody is kind of in the same condition when it comes to the amount of constituents and everything like that. It's much easier to plan around. But so we have that for house campaigns. We have that made up for Senate campaigns. But we'd be super happy to come in and like be like, all right, this is make the adjustments for an individual campaign, obviously much size. I just thought this was a good kind of middle ground. For instance, in Fairfield, first selectman campaign would probably be thinking about spending the same amount as a Senate campaign, which is probably about $150,000. Even a selectman campaign, which is not first selectman in Fairfield, would be bigger than a House campaign. But I obviously realize that there are other sizes, and I'm super happy to answer questions and to give you generic, you know, without copying what we've done for somebody else, but give you generic advice of where we think that you guys should land.
I also really like your Bernie cutout in the background.
Oh, thanks.
Just want to let you know that that was appreciated.
Thanks, Andrew. This was awesome. Thank you very much. Very, very thorough. And yeah, a lot, as Rob said, a lot to digest, and we'll definitely be looking at the material. Thank you.
You guys are very welcome.
I did have a brief question.
Yeah.
And this might just be kind of picking off this presentation just for other work. So I do some nonprofit work. And you mentioned that's the website being a place to look for and find data, but not really a place you're putting out updates. You feel that would go for nonprofits and other websites? I mean, to me, that sounds like a good general rule, or?
Yeah. So let me show you there's two kind of, let me show you some examples. Let's go back to the screen. Let's share. So I want to make sure that, did that click over for everybody?
Yes.
Okay. So let's go to Jen Leeper's page. She has a nice thank you up. She had her endorsements and election info with some click-through, you know, endorsement videos we put up there. And she wanted to be more active at Update. And so she put up a blog. And this is Wix. Again, I strongly recommend using Wix. They have a blog template built right into the platform where you can literally just upload a picture, upload your text, and then it auto-populates on your website with individual links. So you can either put these, link these individual blog pieces into your social media so that you can then distribute it, but it'll be hosted on your website. And so this is the most frequent I would think about updating website, putting out a blog post, hosting it on your website, maybe like once a week, but also sharing it on your social media channels. Another good use is, let's go to ANDEMS, the Action Network of Darien Democrats, which is a PAC we work with. They have an upcoming action calendar where they're both posting their events on social media, but also updating their calendar on their website. But other than that, they're also updating some videos as well from events they've had over the past year. But other than that, it's really a join us, donate, ClickFunnels type piece of content. Facebook and Instagram are channels that people inherently use every day anyway. Make the most use of them. Don't try to put daily updates on your website. You're just not gonna, you're not gonna get the views that are necessary to make it worth your time and effort.
No, great. So like when it's an update, whether it's a blog or a calendar or something else, you're telling that person when they land there that, hey, if you want updates, here they are. You're not just modifying
exactly.
the front page or the landing page.
Yeah, so like going in and updating it, you know, I would say you plan your events ahead, you know what I mean? So when you are updating your events or updating a blog, you're making the update once every 2 weeks, max once a week for a blog, you know what I mean? And that's like a 5-minute process because you've already written your blog. But really what it's about is hosting that information on your webpage, but distributing it through social media. Every single one of Jen Lieber's blog posts got pushed on Facebook and Instagram. Every single one of And events is not only linked on their website, but also on their social media channels.
And while there's just one follow-up, I guess, on that.
Yeah.
So when you get to the older demographics, 65 and above, who might not be social media, might not be, really electronically connected, those updates and those details, recommendations on the best ways to reach out to that community.
Older people definitely use social media, 100%. They don't browse with the frequency of younger individuals, but they use it. And when I say like, I don't mean obviously every single individual uses it, but on average, they definitely use it. Yeah, I do. Here, let me pull this up real quick. If I share my screen again. This, again, apologies for 2 years old data now, not the, I can throw, and this is small, so I can throw this into the drive afterwards. But this is the penetration of different social media channels across different age demos. And this is from 2 years ago. So we now know the average YouTube penetration is well over 85% overall for the US. Most older people are using Facebook, or at least use another person's Facebook account to get updates. I think for a lot of people, you'll find that couples will have one Facebook account between, kind of split between both of them. But obviously they're more used to getting mail. That's the medium of communication they grew up using, and that's what they're used to. So don't forget to mail to them. When I tell people what their budget should be, and I don't say, oh, mail is dead. It's not. It's super important, but it's also super expensive per piece. So use it wisely to target the people who are less likely to be online, or less likely to people see your digital ads, but also more likely to appreciate it. So we make sure, I think in the $35,000 budget we have above, we have at least 5 mail pieces going out, which we usually, again, cut off at like 35 or 44, depending on the budget of the campaign. But we're making sure we hit that demographic with those.
And is there similar data to that would show us the demographics of who hits, what your email posts would hit versus what mailers would hit? Or is it opposite of what we see?
I don't have it for email, but I would just general knowledge, I would say email penetration is high. I think everybody this day and age has an email. Everybody under 75 has an email address, pretty much. I would say it's got to be, at least 85%, 90%. I don't want to be rude and start asking around the room how old people are and whether they have one. But again, I think that even though it's going to be lower in the higher age demos, and these people obviously vote with a higher efficiency, it reinforces the importance of using all the media channels that are available to you. That is email, that's traditional mail, that's handwritten postcards, that's knocking doors. That knocking doors, maybe I'd say, is one of the most important things, is the most important thing for any campaign, and I have not mentioned it all today. Everything I talked about today is nice, and you should be doing it. But if you don't have a candidate and volunteers who are prepared to go out and knock doors, I'd be super disappointed because it is literally the most important form of voter contact.
Are there any other questions for Andrew? Andrew, did you have anything else?
Nope. I guess I'll pitch my next class. I believe it's scroll back to it. It is March 20th at 11 a.m. It's a social media deep dive. It's again, we're going to go into deeper into the scheduling, deeper into the types of posts you'd be sending, both sorted by your videos, links, shared video, etc. But also the communication techniques you should be using moral, emotional language in order to increase engagement. And it should be really fascinating. I think it's fascinating. That's why I do this job. At the end of the day, I think if you guys can tell, I'm a numbers guy, and it's just amazing the ability we have now to reach our constituents in ways that weren't imaginable a decade ago.
Okay, well, thank you very much to everybody attending. Any last questions before we call it? Okay, well, thank you very much for attending, and Andrew, thank you very much for giving the presentation.
You guys are very welcome. Like I said, any follow-up questions, please feel free to send me an email or send me a text if you ID yourself. And my last pitch, if you guys do want to get involved in a campaign, see what it is, go to Nick's website, volunteer, put that I sent you there in the comments, and find out what it's like behind the scenes, because this is we're doing a complete campaign in 45 days. It doesn't come. It is hectic, but it does not come along that often.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Have a good
Very
day.
cool. Very cool. See you on the 20th.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye now.